Coming to you live from the Bill Ford Tough Studio. Boomer Esiason, Greg Giannotti. It's Boomer and Gio on the Fan. Simulcast across the country on CBS Sports Network. And we are on the free Odyssey app. Good Tuesday morning. We officially have a new starting quarterback for the New York Jets. It was announced yesterday. Tim Boyle getting the nod. Zach Wilson, the third-string quarterback. For some reason, they're going to dress the poor bastard and throw him out there on the field. Don't understand why, but you got Trevor Siemian as the backup. You got Tim Boyle as the quarterback, and we'll see if they could do anything offensively against the Miami Dolphins on Friday. You had two of the best teams in the NFL going at it last night on Monday Night Football, and the Philadelphia Eagles now are kings of the castle still in the NFC. And their one loss on the year somehow came to Zach Wilson and the New York Jets. That is totally bizarre. And today's Hungerthon Day, which is always a big day here as we try to raise money for Why Hunger and those that are less fortunate right around Thanksgiving. And we've got lots and lots of great packages to offer you, including sitting and watching a live Boomer and Gio broadcast, co-hosting the Al and Jerry podcast. There's lots of great things we will tell you about and how to bid as the morning goes on. Good morning, Boomer. How are you?
Yeah, good morning, Jay. I'm doing okay. We got a new number one seed in the AFC. That would be the Baltimore Ravens right now with 8 wins, and Kansas City's number 2. They are above Jacksonville and Miami because they beat those two teams in head-to-head matchups this year. But things are kind of shifting a little bit around in the AFC, so it is wide open. I mean, you know, the Dolphins, the Jaguars, the Baltimore Ravens all could somehow ascend to the number one seed because Kansas City has not been great offensively. Now, a lot of this is drop passes and, you know, a very, very average to below average wide receiving core. And I think that Travis Kelce is somewhat distracted from actually playing football these days. You know, could you imagine on a bye week if like a group of New York Giants went down and took a boat trip, or if Tony Romo went to like Cabo? Oh, that all happened. Meanwhile, we have Travis Kelce traveling halfway around the globe to go see Taylor Swift in a concert during his bye week. And what happens? Drops a pass, fumbles a ball. I mean,
2 Super Bowls and one of the most well-liked guys in the game.
I know.
Changes that, you know?
Hey, look, nobody's even talking about it because it's Taylor and it's an amazing thing, and it's great that the two of them are together. But quite frankly, you know, he fumbles last night in the red zone, drops a key pass late in the game that would have been a first down. There's all sorts of stuff going on out there. But, hey, the AFC is to be had. The NFC, on the other hand, not so much. Although the Eagles do have a tough finishing schedule, so they may get picked off once or twice here towards the end. What will be interesting will be that last game, I believe, against the New York Giants. I don't necessarily know that the Philadelphia Eagles will need that game, but I also know that they will probably get a bye if they can hang on to that number one seed. So maybe, just maybe, Nick Sirianni would want to play his guys against the New York Giants in a game that would be meaningless because you don't want to sit the guys for, 3 weeks.
Exactly, especially when you're the only team with a bye nowadays with the new structure with a 1 seed, the only one getting that week off. And really what it comes down to in the NFC is what team do you believe can go into Philadelphia and beat them? And to me, there's only one in the conference, and that's the San Francisco 49ers. That's it.
I agree.
And I hate to sit here and just say that that's it for the NFC, but we've watched so much football the last couple of years with these two teams being so good. And as much as I want to believe that a team like the Detroit Lions or the great story of Josh Dobbs and the Minnesota Vikings or Derek Carr redemption story could somehow be this Cinderella team that could go into Philadelphia to Lincoln Financial Field and topple the Philadelphia Eagles, it ain't happening. It's not happening. The 49ers are the team that could do it, and those two teams should be on the proverbial collision course to face each other in another championship game.
It feels that way without question. But, like I said, we still have, quite a few games left to go, 6 in fact. For Kansas City has actually 7 games to go. Baltimore only has 6 games to go. But, Baltimore sits there and, the other team, too, is amazing to me is Pittsburgh and the teams that they have to play. But their offense, I went back and watched some of this stuff.
It's terrible.
I mean,
Kenny Pickett cannot play the position.
I have to say, like, he has the same problem that Zach Wilson has. He just can't process the game. I mean, you go back and you watch, and they run a lot of crossing routes.
Yeah.
And, a lot of teams run crossing routes. They're trying to get picks and they're trying to confuse people and things of that nature. That's why you would do that. And there are like 3 times in this game against Cleveland where there's a guy running wide open and he just doesn't see it or doesn't want to throw it. And it's hard to understand. And I've been in that situation. Sometimes you could see things on tape that you didn't see on the field, or somebody may be in his way and he can't see a guy that's wide open. And I think that happened with Zach a number of times this year where, like, I don't forget the one in Denver, where I think it's Tyler Conklin is wide open in the back of the end zone when they're on the 5-yard line. And for some reason, he doesn't see it, and it's right in front of him. And this is where, you run into problems with quarterbacks like Kenny Pickett right now, and, of course, Zach Wilson, that can't process offenses and can't see or even anticipate where a guy may be open, where great quarterbacks, like Jalen Hurts and even Patrick Mahomes, who do struggle at times, still give their teams chances to win. And, the drop by Valdez-Scantling last night was everything. It was the game.
Yeah, I mean, that would have been a great catch, but he should have caught the ball.
It went right through his hands.
Yeah, I know, but he kind of dove and everything. I don't know, man.
He didn't dive.
He kind of dove.
No, he didn't.
He doved.
No, he didn't.
He dived.
And by the way, Watson is another one. It's 4th and 25 last night, and
see, like
that ball's got to be caught, son. That has got to be a catch.
It should be a catch.
That's got to go
to the ground.
He
kind of went to the ground.
You ask any wide receiver, that's got to be a catch. Devontae Adams catches that. You know that. Come on. Tyreek Hill catches that.
Yeah, the Jets would not, but everybody else in the league.
The amazing thing is that Kansas City won a Super Bowl last year basically with the same group of guys.
Yeah, and they could do it again this year, too.
Of course they can. I mean, they also have like I told you, a 4th and 22 or something last night, or 4th and 25, I forget what it was at the end of the game. And, Mahomes just lines up and fires it, and it hits Watson right in the hands. It goes right through his hands. And these are plays that were normally made for Patrick over the years. But this group here now has really struggled this year. And it's one of the reasons why, it's interesting. The Chiefs have not scored a point in the second half in their last 3 games.
Yeah, that is alarming. And by the way, they lead the league in drops, the Chiefs. I mean, they are I think, actually, it's either the Jets or the Chiefs that are number 1.
Chiefs
are number 1?
6.
Yeah, so there you go. So the Chiefs lead the league in drops.
Yeah, you got the great quarterback, and you got the crappy supporting cast. And, the first 101 starts of Patrick Mahomes' career, only 2 games where they didn't score in the second half. In his last 3 starts, all 3 games, they haven't scored in the second half.
Yeah, and back to Kenny Pickett for a second, because you jogged my memory of something I saw yesterday. So we've talked about how bad Zach Wilson is. I mean, now that that's sort of over, I think the spotlight and the quarterback grinder is going right towards Kenny Pickett. So there was a video of him, every throw that he made against the Browns and went past the first down markers. All right, compilation that they put together.
Okay, compilation.
Compilation they put together. Every throw he had in that game.
Yeah.
Now, I know the Browns' defense is a good defense. The video was 45 seconds long, first off, which is alarming.
They're very short.
Not one pass was completed.
Yeah.
Not one pass.
He's got small hands, and he's playing with gloves.
I mean, it was really ugly to watch. And a lot of these throws weren't even close. So, obviously, here we are again talking about how you need great quarterbacks to compete, as we all know.
Right. So, what that tells me, a lot about like what Zach Wilson's dealing with. Nerves. Too anxious. Too hyped. Can't slow the game down. Can't process the game. Can't react to the game naturally. And that's something that that's the thing that you're looking for. You're looking for that kid that has the poise, the understanding, doesn't get down on himself, doesn't lose confidence in his ability, doesn't lose confidence in his team's ability. And great quarterbacks are able to overcome a bad game here or there, because everyone's going to play one. But unfortunately for guys like Kenny Pickett and Zach Wilson, their motor's either going too fast or they're not seeing it, they're not processing it. And what ends up happening is that the team loses confidence in that player, because we all know when you play football, and this goes for fans, it goes for teammates, it goes for owners, it goes for front office people, anybody around, people who have fantasy football teams, it's the same thing. Everybody knows who the most important player on the roster is and what condition that particular player who's manning that situation or that position is how he leads the team. And do they have confidence in that person to get them through a tough spot? And there are probably about a handful of teams, maybe 7 teams, that trust their guy back there right now to lead them to the playoffs and to victories, despite whatever's going on around them or whatever negativity there may be in their building, on their team. And that's why you lose 3 games in a row, Brock Purdy. The thing looks like it's going to fall apart. They go on a break. He goes to a farm, does a little farming, comes back, and he's played two almost perfect games back to back. And that's one of the kids that seems to be able to handle all of it. And he's got a great coach. He's got a great offensive system. And by the way, there are 3 offensive systems in the league that have emanated, and there may be another one or 2, but have emanated out of San Francisco. Obviously, one is the San Francisco 49ers. The other one with Bobby Slowick down there in Houston with C.J. Stroud. And, of course, Tua with Mike McDaniel down there in Miami. And look at all 3 of those offenses and how those quarterbacks are flourishing.
Yeah, there was also the Mike LaFleur offense that came out of San Francisco and came right here to the Jets that was stepped on by Zach Wilson like he was trying to squash a lanternfly. Yeah, so that's the one that didn't work out that came out of San Francisco, and I wonder why. By the way, why the hell are they dressing the guy? What's the point of this?
Yeah, I don't know. I keep saying compassionate release, like, you catch a fish and then you throw it back.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like that's what they should do with Zach.
Now, if they did it would be a $15 million dead cap hit this year and another $5 million next year.
Yeah, they may not be able to do it. We know they're not picking up his 5th-year option. We know that.
Yeah, and
so they're going to have to wait to cut him, it looks like.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. But do they really think? It's funny because they didn't have the 3rd emergency quarterback when Trevor Siemian was signed active. But somehow now they're afraid that both these guys are going to get hurt and Zach Wilson might have to play? Or did they feel like it was too embarrassing for Zach to just hold the clipboard again? Like, I just don't. What is the reasoning behind him dressing? Strange.
Yeah, no, I don't know why. I mean, I was thinking of it from just the human sense of it all. And, how this kid, I've never seen anything like it. I mean, the vitriol, and it reminds me, when we first started here at WFAN in 2007 and how people were killing Tom Coughlin and Eli Manning and how they weathered that storm that year and made it to the Super Bowl, which was remarkable. And that was my first year here, and having to sit behind the microphone and kind of explain what was going on in the face of, a tidal wave of just absolute disgust and criticism towards Eli and Tom Coughlin. And then, they shut everybody up when they, well, yeah, that's right, when they went to the Super Bowl in that year. But since that time, I know quarterbacks here have been blasted, but Zach Wilson's gone through this 2 years in a row now. And this is just unbelievable. Just the vitriol, and it comes from us here at the radio station. It comes from social media. There are people that want to defend him because of the offensive line situations, the drop passes. But it still all emanates from him and his personality, and that's the unfortunate thing for the young man. And certainly as a human being, you do feel for him because he didn't sign that big contract extension like Daniel Jones did. He's still on his rookie deal, and he has not figured it out, and he's had to deal with 2 different offensive coordinators and a whole mosh pit around him that really does not support him. Let's face it.
Yeah, and listen, he's going to make no matter what $35 million, which was guaranteed from that rookie contract. So he's got that for the rest of his life, even if he doesn't play another down in the NFL again, which I do think someone will try to put the jumper cables on him and give him a shot somewhere in a training camp or whatever. But yeah, Rob Saleh, for the first time ever, by the way, was trying to very subtly separate himself from the decision-making process or him being the person that kept trotting Zach Wilson out there supporting him. For example, when he was asked about the draft process, someone asked him, what could you guys have done differently during the draft process that ended up with Zach Wilson? And Rob Saleh goes, yeah, I actually, I had my thoughts on all of that, but I'm not going to share them with you right now. What does that say? What does that say? I mean, he was about to say something, and I'm sure Jerry has it, where he's like, yeah, I actually, like, it was almost like he was going to say, I actually really didn't want to draft the guy. But he stopped himself and was like, I have my thoughts on that. I'm not going to share them with you.
I mean, he's tried to stay supportive every which way. To me, he's been a stand-up coach in terms of trying to support his player. And sometimes it sounds so ridiculous that it's not genuine, and we all know that. We all know how he feels. But who knows if, it's Joe Douglas telling him, look, we got to play this kid. I think this kid could really turn it on one of these days. And unfortunately, it's not worked. But, sooner or later, a coach he's the guy that's out in front of the media every single day.
Mm-hmm.
And, they have to stand up for what they think is right, too,
Yeah.
And it's okay to do that. I mean, like, you got to go in and say, look, guys, we can't win with this guy.
Yeah, I know. And maybe he did, and maybe he fell on deaf ears for a while. I don't know. But call me crazy. But we know that Joe Beningo and Rob Saleh have had this texting relationship that happens after every game. So Joe's big thing has been that now. He's like, this kid in Zach Wilson is going to take down a coach, too. He's going to get fired because of Zach Wilson. He's sticking by him, and then he's going to be gone, and Zach's going to be gone. It's all because of this kid. So it felt like yesterday.
This is why this is a bad job by Rob. I know Rob Saleh wants to embrace the Jet fan and everything, but this is like a bad thing.
I know.
Because now we all think that whatever Joe is saying, this is what he's texting back and forth with
fresh
the head coach.
Off of can we get rid of Michael Carter? Jets release Michael Carter. So call me crazy, but it sounds like Rob Saleh, for the first time, is trying to remove himself from this Zach Wilson thing slowly and subtly because he is starting to believe what his buddy Joe Beningo has been texting him.
Yeah, but it's not just that.
How about that?
I mean, he's a coach. He's a defensive coach. He knows what he sees, and he knows how other teams are playing him because of his quarterback. I mean, sooner or later, you got to stand up for yourself, and you got to stand up for your team if you are the head coach and say, guys, what are we doing?
But this is one of the big knocks on him. He's never felt like he's been in charge.
Well, maybe he had. I say, this is what I always say. The GM picks the squad, usually in consultation with the coaches. What do we think we need? What are we looking for? What would we like? And then you sit down with the coaching staff, your scouts, and you start looking at some players. At the Senior Bowl, maybe you're interviewing some people. At the Combine, you're interviewing some guys you're zeroing in on. And ultimately, the general manager makes the decision on the roster. He's the one that decides who's on the roster. Then the coach has got to be accepting, and hopefully everybody's on board about who they're drafting, where they're drafting, the position they're drafting, and all of these different things that go into the decision-making when it comes down to who they're going to pick and who they're going to sign. And then it really then comes down to the coach, in my eyes, as to who plays. And the coach has got to be able to have the ability to decide who plays on Sunday, not the front office. I'm sorry. The coach is the one that is out there who's there for everybody to see. And he's the guy that's got to give the post-game press conference. He's the guy that's in front of the media all week long. And if he doesn't have a say-so of who the hell's playing and how he's playing, or I need to bench this guy no matter where we drafted him, then I'm sorry.
All right.
Then you have your balls have been cut off.
Yep, which I think has happened. I think the Rob Saleh's balls are right in the case next to the Super Bowl III Lombardi. They've just got him in there in some like a snow globe.
I hope not. For his sake.